And God stepped out on space. And he looked around and said, I'm lonely. I think I'll make me a world. And in that world, God placed,
Mike.
and in that world, God placed me. And that happened to be in a town called Petersburg, Virginia. A totally segregated city, a segregated school system, segregated lunch counters, segregated everything. From Petersburg, Virginia, I migrated north to Washington, D.C. to attend Howard University. Now, it was suggested that we talk about our story. So the story I'm telling you is mine, where I came from, and how I've ended up here. At Howard University, supposedly the zenith in black education, located in Washington, D.C., which had no legal codification that allowed segregation. But in 1960, students at another historically black college, North Carolina A&T, located in Greensboro, North Carolina, some students started a sit-in, and within a very, very short period of time, the sit-in sprang up all over the South at historically black colleges and universities. We at Howard tried to figure out, wait a minute, all of this is going on, but what are we doing? The answer is nothing. That's because, again, within the confines of Washington, D.C., there was no supposed legal segregation. However, if you went across the Potomac River, which was the boundary, or is the boundary, between D.C. and Virginia, segregation existed by law. We formed a group called the Nonviolent Action Group, or NAG. We went, students from Howard and others who joined us, to have a sit-in Arlington, Virginia. Within 2 weeks, we had desegregated the public institutions that were segregated prior to our action. We then looked forward to another target. In metropolitan D.C., we went across the state line or the district line into Maryland. We desegregated a couple of theaters and an amusement park, and we started the activity to desegregate the amusement park. Now, with all of that as background, in comes starting the Freedom Rides. Now, already versed in sit-ins of nonviolence as a tactic for some philosophy, the sit-ins led us to continued activities. And the Freedom Ride started out, as suggested earlier, with only 13 persons on 2 separate buses trying to get from D.C. to New Orleans. Well, my compatriots will fill you in on some of the other details, but when it got to Anniston, Alabama, it was burned. That iconic picture of a burning bus with people on it, not just those 13, but all regular passengers on interstate travel were also on the bus. Now, when that occurred, the original riders practically gave up, went back to D.C. Now, at the time, all of those sit-ins that I mentioned earlier were causing the formation of a group called the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC. When SNCC found out that the rides had come practically to an end, it sent out a call for additional people to coalesce and come to continue the ride. The ride went into Birmingham, where the new riders were pelted, and then they got as far as Montgomery, Alabama. Now, in Montgomery, the same thing practically occurred. There was a regrouping, and about 3 or 4 days after the Birmingham activity, 2 buses left Montgomery going to Jackson, Mississippi. I want you to travel with me on one of those 2 buses. On one bus that I was on, there were approximately 13 more people, all Freedom Riders this time, okay? Not regular passengers. But also on that bus were National Guardsmen with bayonets. Now travel with me as this bus rolls down the highway. 2 helicopters flying overhead. 2 state police, Alabama state police cars in front. Military escort with the state police cars in front, and the same in the back, behind the bus. When we got to the Mississippi state line, the bus stopped. The Mississippi State Guardsmen and the Mississippi State, the Alabama State Police and Alabama Guards dropped out. On the side of the road, on either side of the state line, I'd say at least for 40 yards, these state guardsmen lined the road. On the Mississippi side, it was a repeat performance. Mississippi State Police, Mississippi National Guardsmen, and the helicopters flying overhead. We got a wonderful escort into Jackson, Mississippi. Now heretofore, riders had been either beaten or, well, just beaten. But during the period between Birmingham and Montgomery and Jackson, a deal was made with the governor of Mississippi that the riders would not be beaten, but they would be arrested. Now, I would like to tell you that for once, the police became our salvation, because as soon as we hopped off the bus in Jackson, Mississippi, we were arrested for breach of peace. Because we were arrested, the mob couldn't get to us. So that turned out to be our salvation. I didn't know it at the time. Some of the others may have, that the deal was cut. But when I went on the ride and left Harvard, I thought I was going for a long weekend. I had no idea that I would be arrested in the next 40 days or so. I'd be in the penal system in the state of Mississippi. When we were arrested, we were in the county jail. When other riders came, it became overcrowded, and we were transferred to a prison farm. It was the county prison farm. When more riders came, we were transferred from the prison farm to the state penitentiary at Parchment. My compatriots will tell you about their visit to Parchment. And I would really like to say that my long weekend turned to be more than 2 years. Not in the state penitentiary, but since I'd already lost that semester out of school, I decided, oh well, I'm here now, what can I do? I became a field secretary for SNCC, again, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And for the next 2 years, I conducted voter registration activities in Mississippi, Louisiana, and the state of Maryland. I don't know how much time I have left, but I will tell you that some harrowing experiences occurred during that 2-year period of time. Number one, I was working in Macomb, Mississippi, again, voter registration, and we were staying at this woman's home that was a converted garage. And if you can imagine where the garage door may have been, a lattice window, or window panes separated by wooden slats. My bed was laying parallel to that window. There was a freight train that went up a grade a half a block away from this house every night. And on one particular night, and I have to show you this, when I was arrested, I think I weighed about 125 pounds with a 22-inch waist. If my girth, as it is now, would have been what I had then, a shotgun blast would have taken it off that extra weight that I have now. That was kind of frightening. I think the only thing I would like to add is that while I never got back to Howard, I ended up at the University of Wisconsin for undergrad school. And it kind of changed, the freedom rides changed my life because I was a physics major. I wanted to be a nuclear physicist. But after 2 years of civil rights activity and voter registration, I wanted to find out why did it take 100 years practically, approximately, since the Emancipation Proclamation for there to be an organized protest in this country. I changed my major to American History, Civil War and Reconstruction, and Sociology. Now, it's been, I guess, about 50 years since I got out of Wisconsin. I still can't answer that question. I guess when we get into the answer period, or the question and answer period, I can go into more detailed activities, but I don't wish to take the time of my compatriots. Thank you.